Ghost Rider issue number 13 from Marvel Comics. So in the last issue, we had Johnny and Talia in Georgia, where the entire town was basically engulfed in flames, and there were dead humans and dead demons everywhere. And it turned out that there was another Ghost Rider who had arrived earlier and created all this carnage, and it was Danny Ketch. And so we actually start off this issue with a flashback where we see Danny in a bar, and eventually this woman shows up, and her name is Dr. Diu. And Dr. Diu is aware that Danny has a spirit of vengeance and has a project that she wants him to participate in. Here's where my confusion is. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't really been reading all that much Marvel, but the last time I saw Danny was no longer a spirit of vengeance. He was a Death Rider. He was the what was it called? The spirit of corruption. It was like the green and black suit with the giant sword. He was in what was that? It was the symbiote, like the Venomverse crossover, where like demons had the symbionts and Johnny had to fight it, and Danny was there. So last time I saw Danny, he wasn't a spirit of vengeance anymore. But here he has it. Can anyone tell me, like, is this series just retconning that, and just, is there any setup for this? I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Was there any like issue from another series or event that I missed where Danny gets the spirit of vengeance powers back? Because again, like I said, last time I saw him, he didn't have the spirit of vengeance. He had a spirit of corruption. But maybe I'm wrong there. Because not only do we see Danny using the spirit of vengeance powers later on in this issue, but the flames are also green, and he has his giant sword, or at least he did in the previous issue. So maybe he's both? Maybe he has the spirit of corruption and the spirit of vengeance? I just don't recall how he got the spirit of vengeance powers back. Anyways, we cut to the present day, where we're in South Carolina, where Johnny and Talia come across this club. And Talia is kind of using her powers to figure out what's going on. And basically, this was a giant like sex club where there was sex, there were drugs, there's blood and demonic worship. And there's this DJ named the Ram. He has like these beats that he uses that sends out like a pulse to hell, and it gives people visions, and it also allows demons to come in and possess them. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like drugs, sex, DJ music to summon demons and granting them powers to possess people. It's like, all right, that's kind of interesting. But as this was going on, there was like this screech, like a feedback screech, and then everyone just got engulfed in flames. And Talia sees a vision of Danny. Like she shares a vision with Johnny. Johnny's like, wondering what the hell happened to Danny for him to do this, because this seems very out of character. And we see Danny, he's inside this laboratory. It's called the Infernal Labs, where they're doing like research on demons and hell and stuff like that. And Dr. Diu puts Danny inside this room because she wants him to summon the spirit of vengeance. And he does. And here's another thing that I'm just kind of like, I haven't read too much of Danny. Like I've never read volume 3 of Ghost Rider. I've read all of volume 2. I've read a bunch of other like big events in volumes where Johnny is the main character, but Danny has either a minor or important role in it. And Danny just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would blindly go into a lab where people know about his spirit of vengeance. Like Danny seems like the kind of person who like you would have to kidnap him to get him in there. Am I wrong? Or does this seem very out of character for Danny? But he eventually summons the spirit of vengeance, and he fights this giant demon. We have a moment that seems kind of pointless. So Johnny and Talia go to a hospital where one of the club members had survived, but she has like 3rd-degree burns all over her body. She's basically like on death's door. And they basically like question her about the figure that set the place up on fire. And she draws the figure with her blood on this piece of paper before she dies. And it's a drawing of Danny, and they're like, oh, looking at this, it looks like, he's wearing high-tech gear. I don't know how you can tell this by a silhouette, but yeah, she's like, this looks like high-tech gear. Maybe like the things on his head aren't horns. Maybe they're antennas, because there was a feedback screech, and maybe he's there's an antenna on his head, and that's where the feedback is coming from. All I can say is that this part seems pointless because earlier on we had Talia inside the club using her powers to have a vision of what happened, and she sees Danny clearly. Here, she only sees him as a bloody silhouette. First off, I would say that this girl is really good at drawing, especially with her busted up fingers. But what's the point of her confirming that it's Danny when you literally saw a vision that painted a better, clearer picture of who the figure was? So this whole moment seemed kind of pointless. We come back to the past where Dr. DU is talking to Danny about how they're trying to just do research on hell and demons and stuff like that, and how she was promised like $20 million in a grant if she was able to enlist Danny as a subject, and how she promises to be able to free Danny from the spirit of vengeance. And again, I'm just like, one, when did he get the spirit of vengeance back? Two, why do we keep jumping between Danny wanting the spirit of vengeance and then not wanting the spirit of vengeance? Like, this seems to be a recurring thing with Danny, where he seems to be okay with the spirit of vengeance, but then at other parts, like in other series, he's not okay with the spirit of vengeance and he sees it as a curse. But then we get another series where he's totally okay with it. Make up your mind. Also, how many series are we going to do where Danny is a pawn to the villains? I've read at least one other series where Danny is like a villain. He's going around killing a bunch of other Ghost Riders. It turns out that he's like brainwashed or whatever. And here it looks like it's not necessarily brainwashed so much as it is like using high tech and signals and stuff to control the spirit of vengeance. But how many times are we going to use the same plot of Danny being an unwilling pawn to doing like these horrifying things? It's kind of funny because Dr. DU uses like, she basically says that while you were using your Ghost Rider powers, you killed a bunch of people. Like, even though you saved a bunch of people also died. Like, this woman who saw you, like, she got freaked out and she had a heart attack and died. While you were riding down your road, you freaked out a driver who ended up swerving off the road, crashing into a tree and dying. You even accidentally killed a kid. She doesn't go into saying how because Danny interrupts her. But basically, this kind of drills in the point like, okay, maybe I should get rid of the Ghost Rider powers if I'm accidentally killing people. But then, while under control, he's going around, he's killing a bunch of people. He killed a bunch of people inside this club. The previous issue, he killed everybody in Savannah, Georgia. So it's like, you're now doing more harm than you were. At least when you were under control, you were helping some people. And I guess I know like this is part of the story. Like, he's under control. It's not him that's actually going around killing people. But it's just something that I found kind of funny. But yeah, back to Talia and Johnny, where they are inside this Digicom data center. And they're basically the entire, I like how this is kind of explained. Radio and TV and cell signals fill the air. Like the air is filled with ghosts. The radio and TV and cell signals are white noise. But there's also black noise. And black noise is the whispering of the dead, the howling of demons. And every information is transmitted in some way. Like, Danny was wearing this helmet that had to have been some kind of transmitter. And if it's the transmitter, it means that it would have pinged the transmitting tower that's a few blocks away from the club. And everything that pings that tower is collected in this data cabinets. So we just got to find the data cabinet that contains that specific signal, and we can find out what frequency Danny was listening to cause him to do what he did. And they listen to it, and it knocks this one woman out. It causes Talia to start throwing up, and as soon as Johnny puts it on, his face melts and he turns into the Ghost Rider. And there's a little bit more. I'm not gonna spoil everything. I will say this was an interesting, if just kind of confusing issue. Confusing in just the whole Danny situation. He seems a bit out of character. He doesn't seem like the kind of character that would walk into a secret laboratory filled with people, or at least run by someone who knows of his secret identity as the Ghost Rider or the Spirit of Vengeance. Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of person who would willingly put himself in that kind of situation. Later on, when he's in there, Dr. DU puts him in this room, locks him in there and then has a giant demon come out to fight him because she's trying to force him to use the Spirit of Vengeance powers, which he does. And then he's still willing to work with her after that. It doesn't seem like Danny would do that. Also, how did he get his Spirit of Vengeance powers when last we saw he only had the Spirit of Corruption and he was no longer a Ghost Rider? He was a Necrosis. He was the Death Rider. And how many times are we going to have Danny being an unwilling pawn in a series? So just that kind of stuff. Also, the scene at the hospital, it felt like you were wasting pages. Like, why would they go see this girl who was there to get her to draw a silhouette of the figure that lit the place on fire when Talia literally used her powers to see what happened and she had a clear image of who it was? Like, they already know who it is. And it's like, oh, well, that drawing that she drew was able to tell them that that Danny was wearing high-tech gear and that maybe he didn't have horns on his head, maybe it was antennas. How would you get that from a silhouette rather than seeing a clear vision of Danny? Like, when she uses her vision, it's almost like she's there. Like, she sees everything. She sees everything in color. It's like looking at a camera. Like, you know, it's like watching a video. She can get more information on how Danny looks in her vision than she does from a bloody silhouette drawing that a person drew. So that whole hospital scene just didn't make any sense to me. Maybe it made sense to you, and if so, please explain it to me, because I'm a little bit lost on that. I mean, we ended up back in like the same message. Like, it's Danny. He seems to be off. He's wearing some kind of high-tech gear. Maybe he's wearing some kind of antennas. Let's see if there's antennas and there's a feedback screech, there might be a transmission, like a signal being broadcasted. Let's try to find out where that signal is coming from. But you could have gotten all that from the vision. You didn't need to go to the hospital for that. So yeah, it's just, there's some just confusing stuff in here and just things that are, I'm like, I don't know, like, we've kind of trended on this territory before. Like, this isn't new ground, especially with Danny. So I guess we'll see where it goes. I'm not giving up on this issue, and like I said, like, other than some of that stuff, it was good, or it was entertaining at least. Artwork is still great. I like the characters. Talia is surprisingly not insufferable. Like, she's been a great written character so far. Her and Johnny actually work as a team. It's not like she's the one solving everything and ordering Johnny around. Like, they actually work well together, so that's nice. The stuff with Danny and Dr. DU, like, again, it seems kind of out of character for Danny, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But there you go, there's Ghost Rider issue number 13. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. So what'd you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.